Allow yourself the grace to consider and let yourself evolve, and also trust yourself, and that you are going to make the right decision for you and your family because you love this kid. And that can look like lots of different things for lots of different people. But I have not met a family yet who is making their decisions with anything other than love for their family and for their children.
All right. Hello. Today is a special day. I've gathered a bunch of contributors to a recent book. Well, actually, books that SOFT has created. SOFT being the support organization for trisomy 18, 13, and other related disorders. We've been in existence for over 40 years, and in recent years, I shouldn't say in recent years, over the times, there's been lots of books created by the hands of SOFT and through Dr. Carey, who's joining us today, and a lot of books to help families and doctors and medical professionals know about these conditions. But we really want to celebrate something that has been a lot of work, many years of thoughtfulness and planning. A lot of professionals have contributed, but it's the New and Expectant Parent Book. And today, for this particular group, these were the contributors, both from parent perspective, we got medical professionals, but for the Trisomy 18 New and Expectant Parent Book, I'm joined by a number of individuals that were directly involved in creating that book. And so I'm so excited. We've got 8 of us here on this call. There's a few others we're missing, so we love everyone that contributed. If you turn to the very back of the book, you'll see everybody's name in there. So thank you again for this. Now, real quick, before we get started in introduction, let me just say, these books are for new and expectant parents. They're designed to be informative, and in part of the book, it actually has resources where you can have a birth plan. You can make decisions on what you want as a mother, as a father, what you would like to do in preparing for the birth and being expectant for children with trisomy 18. Now, last comment is that we had such a great review for these books that we made a trisomy 13 book, and many of the individuals on this call contributed directly to that book. And what's really awesome is we're in the midst, as of recording, a trisomy 9 book, and hopefully we're only a few weeks away from that hitting publication. But this group of individuals kind of set the tone for a book that now is being shared on our website. You can purchase it on Amazon, and daily families and geneticists and other professionals are requesting it. So I'm so excited that I get a chance to talk to each of these individuals. And so without further ado, let's start. I'll call on the first one just to get an order going. Let's hear from Kelly. You're going to be the first one, and I know you're going to like me for doing that. But Kelly, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Nick. My name is Kelly Hernandez, and for SOFT, I am the Director of Digital and Regional Connection. And I've been a member of SOFT since, gosh, I don't even know how long, probably about 2005. 2006 was my first conference in Chicago. And I was also got to be a member of the team, which was really exciting. And besides SOFT, I am an educator. I was a special education teacher for 14 years and now do educational leadership for the past 3 years. And so I've just always been very passionate about working with children and families that have family members with disabilities.
Thank you, Kelly. Jen, Dr. Jen Sogge, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, my name's Jennifer Sogge. As Nick said, I am a physician and anesthesiologist, but I'm also have the privilege of having a trisomy little boy who lived 4.5 years. So I was able to join with the perspective of having both sides and both fields of vision. Also one of the directors for member services with SOFT, and I've been part of SOFT since I found out that I was pregnant with my son back in 2017. So SOFT has become a family in many sorts of way for me. So
Awesome. Terra, let's hear from you.
Yes, my name is Terra Spiehs-Garst, and professionally, I am a nurse. I have my master's in nursing and did education for quite a while. Before I gave birth to Emerson, my second trisomy 18 child, and that is when I also joined SOF. I have had three children with trisomy 18. My first son lived 9 hours. Emerson is now 14, and then we also have a 5-year-old named Margaret. So my main job now is taking care of Emerson and Margaret.
Now, Jacqueline, Dr. Jacqueline Vidosh, why don't you tell us a little about you?
Sure. My name's Jacqueline, and I am an obstetrician gynecologist, but really doing more hospitalist work. So I get to deliver a lot of babies. And I became interested in soft and learning more about all of this when I was my pregnancy was diagnosed with trisomy 18 with my third, who I am happy to report will be 6 in January. His name is Noah. And it's really been kind of a labor of love, I would say, not only this book, but just um, I think educating. I've spent a lot of time in this space, like educating pediatric and obstetric residents, and that's how I got to get to know Dr. Carey and get involved at all. Was we did a joint um, grand rounds together. It's I kind of like to think about myself as a bit of a bridge where I like to speak to both the physicians and the parents and kind of help communication on both sides of the aisle, if you will.
Thank you, Jacqueline. John, since she brought up your name, Dr. John Carey, do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm John Carey, been on the faculty of the University of Utah in the Department of Pediatrics and Division of Medical Genetics since 1979. I can brag and say I'm the second longest of almost 400 faculty members at the University of Utah, because despite being retired, officially named emeritus, if you will, I'm still actively working, as everyone on this call who's now smiling knows. I had the privilege of working with Kris Holladay in 1979 and formally creating SOFT, as Nick mentioned, Sport Organization for Trisomy 18-13 Related Disorders, and have been to every one of the conferences since the first one in 1987 in Salt Lake City. And now in SOFT, I chair the Medical and Scientific Advisory Board, which has been expanded and growing over the last 4 or 5 years, and has had some role in the initiation of these books. Thank you, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you, John. All right. Let's go with Kris Holladay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kris. Thanks for joining with us, by the way.
Sure. I'm glad to be here. And thank you, Nick. And thank you, John, for mentioning that magical moment when we had the privilege of meeting back at the University of Utah in 1979. I am the parent of a daughter with trisomy 18, Carey, and Carey lived for almost 11 years. She continues to inspire and enlighten us, and she has taken us on a journey that I would never change for a moment. It's been a rewarding. I have had so many opportunities to meet so many wonderful people, such as the people on this call. So as the founder, along with John Carey, of the SOFT organization, it's been a remarkable journey and history, and to see the evolution of not only our children and their outcomes, but also in medicine and in how we deliver messages. It's been a rewarding and wonderful experience. And is it okay if I also mention that I'm happy to be the proud mother of Nick Holladay, our host?
We'll cut that part out, but thank you. Yes, I have a sister, Carey. But I say Barb for last because Barb, I'm going to start with a question real quick. I had heard, well, Barb, we got Barb Vanherreweghe. Please introduce yourself, and then I have a question for you, Barb.
I'm the mom of Stacy. Stacy had full trisomy 18, and she lived to be almost 37 years old. We were blessed in those years to be able to take her on 5 cruises and around to all the conferences at that point. And she was a joy of our life. I was the past president of SOF for 30 years, probably counting. And for 32 years, I worked at an organization that did case management for children who were medically frail. So Stacy brought me to that job and made me want to be able to help other families in the local area as well as I did with Soft and the international level.
Thank you, Barb. And yes, Barb has been the past president only up until about 2 years ago. Barb was the president of Soft, well over 30 years. And this book, I've heard others say, but I want to give credit publicly that, the vision, we started this book many years ago. And we'll get into some of the fun antics and back and forth trying to write a book that hits all the medical latest information. And the good news about Trisomy 18 is that there's more information coming all the time. So you got to be somewhat on the cutting edge. So this book kind of took some evolution, but this was always a dream of Barb's, is how it was worded to me. And so, Barb, tell me about what this book means to you before we get back into the history of how the book was created and what we hope the book can provide. Tell me what this book, the New and Expectant Parent Book for Trisomy 18 in particular, means for you.
Well, it gives me hope. I'm hoping that we can give hope to other families too, as well as to give knowledge for doctors to understand our kids and allow them to receive the care that they need to care. It was my dream to get something done, a brochure or something, and we tried brochures. We tried a lot of things over the years, but it was probably Terra who's the one that pushed this book the most and wanted this book to succeed and really brought the format to the front of where we needed to be. So I can't take that credit. I think it was more Terra pushing to get this done. And then after that, I pushed for the Trisomy 13 and the Trisomy 9 and the Spanish so we could get everything else done. But we'll give credit to Terra for this too.
Terra, do you mind sharing? And at this point, I'm going to stop maybe mediating. If you guys feel inclined to answer some questions, we don't have to have everybody answer them, but I'll ask some questions. But Terra, what was the drive behind this? What does this book mean to you?
So, Margaret was very little when we initiated this process. And so being an expectant parent myself was a little bit more close to home. And because I've already had 2 children with Trisomy 18, I spent a lot of time in my pregnancy educating our medical professionals. And so it just really hit home that I felt like we needed something that could be available for both parents and medical professionals, and that it would bridge that gap and help some of that communication and help explain things for families that are being introduced to this and don't have the knowledge. And also letting medical professionals know that here are some of the things that in conversations and people that you can be working with as well when you are being introduced to a family that is pregnant with a child with Trisomy 18. We also, I was the expectant parent contact for many years, and I heard that from a lot of families that they wanted something. They wanted information to have so that they could go back to it and reference it and process things in it, in their time that they needed to process things, and that they could also give to their medical providers so that they could be on the same page and be having the same conversations together. So I can't remember even exactly what year we presented it, but Terry and I both working with expectant parents, we saw the need coming from the Soft Facebook group. There was a lot of conversations when she would talk with families. And so we both presented it to the board that this was definitely a needed thing.
I love that, and seeing that gap. Does anyone else have any thoughts or just strong feelings about this book and what it means to them that would like to share?
One thing nice about it, I think, is that it brings everything together. So the families can look for the tests. They know what tests they need to have when they go in for the children. They know what steps are there for them to look at. And the birth plan happens to be in the same place. So I think we took several things from the internet, from our website, and put them together in a format where they could just pick it up, look at it, take it to their doctors, and move forward with their lives in whatever direction they wanted to go.
Amazing. Awesome. I get a
nice.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Jen.
I think that also the nice thing is that it meets the parent or the professional where they're at. So a lot of times you're overwhelmed a lot in the beginning, and people are talking to you and may present an idea, but you don't necessarily remember it 2 months down the road or as clearly as you think you're going to, or maybe you're not ready to hear about it or learn about that yet. And the one nice thing about the book is you can kind of do it at your own pace and read something and then come back to it again later in the future when you're ready to learn more about that information or work on that section, for example, like the birth plan or meeting other physicians, other providers, getting consults and stuff like that. Maybe at 12 weeks, you're not ready to hear that, but at 30 weeks, that's something that you're more likely to be like, oh, I need to get this done, or I need to see that, or, tackle this part of it.
There's
One
another part
thing,
of the book that I think is really there's another part of the book I think is really important, and that is they describe all the specialists. And even though not every baby needs all of those specialists, it does help you understand the medical professional, what their job is and what part they cover and how they can contribute to your body of information as you make decisions for your child. So I really like that part of the book as well.
And Jen wrote that part of the book. She authored that. I remember in the beginning, like Terra, I don't remember exactly what year we actually started to move forward. I think it was like the year before COVID, but it was really that second retreat that we had, around 2021, that we really, you, Terra, got us to Google Doc. We came up with an outline. I recruited Jacqueline, who, as she mentioned, we both had spoke together. Her being an OB and the mom of Noah was perfect, and we moved forward. But I remember probably Jen and Terra remember this best. I really struggled a lot with, is this a book for a newly diagnosed child in the newborn unit, or is this a book for mom who just learns, or parents who just learned the diagnosis? What's interesting, when we evolved the title of New and Expectant, it like really hit the mark. It's like where it is when you see it now. It's actually for both, but it's really for someone whenever they first hear of the diagnosis, whether it's at 15-week amniocentesis or an ultrasound at 20-some weeks confirmed, or in the newborn period. So I love the way the title evolved. We were the Expectant Parent Book Committee, right, Terra? But the book became, a New and Expectant Parent, so resource book.
I think from my perspective, there are a couple of themes that this book resonates with for me. One of the things is the concept of autonomy. And I think particularly working in women's health, this idea of autonomy is a struggle for a lot of patients to achieve and to obtain. So to be able to have a resource that might offer them some autonomy, I think is really important in that discussion. And I think also kind of from the obstetrician's point of view, and John's heard me say this, I don't know how many times now, that first conversation is so critical because it sets the tone for all the other conversations. And sometimes if new information isn't assimilated until much later in the conversation, then it's really hard for people to kind of wrap their minds around new information. So I think having a resource that is easy to find and easy to read, and hopefully having that at more of the beginning of the conversation, it can really help open up other conversations. Because really what we want, you know what, let me not speak for everybody else, but for me, when I am taking care of women and in, pregnancies that might be a little more difficult, they need to be able to have that full spectrum of what does this look like from, this angle to that angle. And I think that this book is a really great start for a lot of families. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated about this team was they really made it easy to read from all these different angles, because it's very easy for me as a physician to go down some of this jargon. And even I'm thinking I'm doing a good job not using my jargon. And then, I got edited a lot. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So it was, I think, one of the things that I really appreciated. This team was so intentional about making this an easy to utilize resource. So
I think we have Terra to thank for that. She did a lot of the editing.
Terra made it so
Sorry.
I could understand it. Thank you, Terra. I've been had a chance to, I'm no medical professional. I'm just a lowly MBA student, as I like to refer to myself when I'm talking to all these medical, um, you know, amazing people. Yeah, it's easy to read. I can validate this as someone that only went to MBA school. Thank you, Terra, then. Thank you. I feel like I hear like some gaps that were out there that weren't there. Information, Barb, you mentioned it. Understanding the whole scope of what you're getting into from the specialist, from the very specific. There's definitions of terms for different procedures or actions that you just have to be aware of. And so, yes, I can agree with everything. That it's very easy to read. It was well thought out. So thank you for all that contributed on that. Well, let's take a little bit. We talked about the parts of the book. I kind of want to make sure we understand the vision. Like, what was the guiding principle? What was the goal here? And then I'm excited to get into collaboration, because that's brought most of the smiles when we talked about the collaboration. But like, let's just declare what our vision was. We said what it means to us. What do we hope that this means, the Trisomy 18 book in particular, for that community? Does anyone want to share that thought?
I think that, go ahead, Terra.
Oh, I guess I can speak for my own vision. Was I wanted families to have that autonomy, like Jacqueline mentioned. And I wanted them to feel like they could understand some of the things that were happening and maybe not feel so scared. That there was a community of people and there was information there that they had at their fingertips that they could refer to. And it gave them some sort of knowledge and more sense of control in a really scary situation.
John, you want to
Yeah,
add?
I think what I was going to add that from the beginning, I think all of us agreed that it was important to strive for balanced information. That is, that it was not going to be extreme in one way or advocate for one view or another. And I think in the end, if you look in our first draft to our final drafts, I feel proud that I think we reached that as well as anyone could. And I know that, we frequently went back. Everybody remembers that I refer to Stephanie Meredith's letter case book on Down syndrome. And that's what they strove for from the beginning. And I frequently go back to that book to see where we were, and I thought we had reached that mark.
I think that's great. One thing that sticks out to me, we currently have SOFT. Our mission is to support families and change the narrative. But our recent mission statement, not too long ago, was about supporting everyone on their own trisomy journey. I butchered that, but the point is, we support everyone's decision. And in a lot of the podcasts and opportunities I've talked to parents, we've talked to other medical professionals, the common theme is making the decision that's best for them at that moment. And we as an organization want to empower them to make the right decision for them at that moment. There are beliefs, there's morals and other things that we all have our own different feelings at different times. And I'm with you, John, that our hope for this is provide knowledge, provide understanding, and then make the best decision for your child and for you. I love the word autonomy. Thank you, Jacqueline, for bringing that up. Barb, you said the word hope, but really, all of these wonderful expressions that we're having is what we want, which is give them information, the parents, that is. So thank you for describing that. Does anyone else want to add any other sound bites as to like the vision and purpose of this book?
The one thing I would like to add and continue on to what John was saying is I like that this book is meant for everybody and every viewpoint, because we did include sections on there that were difficult to talk about, like adoption, or even if a family wanted to proceed to hospice or palliative care, or even end of life or termination of pregnancy, which was definitely a difficult topic to broach. But at the same time, we felt it was important to include because it is a conversation and thought process that many families have to go through. And we wanted to make sure that everybody felt included when they were reading this book. And this book was for all families, not just one or two.
Nice thing about that was that we included all the information to help them make that decision instead of them not having the full amount of facts that they needed to make those decisions in the past.
Awesome. I think we at Soft, a lot of our families have children that are just like this call. We have several that have living children, and those that lived a number of years or just a few moments or a few years. So we sometimes have that view or branding, I get, or like brand Soft is that we only think one way, but really we're here to support. And that's why that mission of supporting families, this book hits it. Support families with information, understanding. And so thank you, Jen, for articulating that we wanted to make sure all viewpoints and all options were listed in the book. Fantastic. All right. Let's get into like how this came about. Terra, you mentioned you presented it at the board, and I'm assuming that the board at Soft is usually pretty mean and they say no to everything. So you probably had to like twist arms, like bring in cookies or something. Tell me what happened after the board approved this project. And let's kind of get into that.
It was a who wants to be involved, and people raised their hands. John and Jennifer and Kelly and Terry all raised their hands that they wanted to be involved. And then I did what I do best, and that's nag, as my children would tell me. So we set up meetings, and everyone started John brought in Jacqueline, and we started to divide out who we thought would be the best fit to work on each section based on their experiences and their knowledge. And we wanted people that we wanted to fit each person with the correct spot so that it could be written so well.
We knew from the beginning that we wanted the birth plan section. And I know that Barb and Terra, Kelly already kind of knew some programs that existed, and we compiled them. But I think that's a real centerpiece of the book, real practical, logistic aspect, that there's actually that checklist for the birth plan. I think that was a unique centerpiece for a book. You don't always see that in some of the other parent support group books about various conditions.
Let's do this. Anybody that contributed, maybe tell what you wrote and maybe something that stood out to you. So it sounds like Jacqueline, you had a part, and others. And I know we're missing Terry Krotzer. So she was a contributor and did many, many great things. So just things couldn't work out timing wise. But why don't we go around, for those of you that contributed, actually wrote some things. And Kris, we'll save you for the end about the pictures, since you're the keeper of that. But tell us a little bit about the parts that you all played in it.
So I, like I said, helped keep everyone going, motivation with my emails. I worked on the advocacy portion, and I also worked on the birth plan. Terry, Kelly, Barb, and I all kind of did the birth plan together.
And Jacqueline and I wrote the prenatal sections together. I made a stab at the first part, and she revised it and then did other tests during pregnancy. And then I did the medical part, the list of findings in trisomy 18, and really revised it 10 times, just trying to be as balanced and careful about the wording as we could be, but also not avoiding what might be considered some of the harder parts. But it's always a challenge to reach that balance when we're talking about a condition like trisomy 18, or for that matter, trisomy 13, where the serious part of the medical, you want to enter it, but you don't want to over exaggerate it. You don't want to make it be the whole thing that is trisomy 18.
Jacqueline, do you want to add to that? Since it sounds like you.
Go
ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
I helped with the medical consults and professionals section, defining different physicians, what they what their job descriptions are, what they potentially treat in trisomy children, and have them separated and listed into even if things individuals you might think about consulting prior to the birth of your child, and who you might want to talk to and come up with a plan with, and who might be consulted after the birth of your child, or who you might look at getting consulted with. I did help with a lot of editing, and then I also worked on the glossary section as well with Dr. Carey. So
That reminds me, I think, at the same time that we were first envisioning this, and as we went along, fetal care centers were becoming so much more recognized and commonplace. I mean, they existed prior to 2019, when first surgery for spina bifida in utero was starting to emerge in the middle part of that previous decade. Fetal centers kind of emerged from that. And so that's why just when we were finishing the book, there was most children's hospitals around the country had a fetal care center. So that's why it became important for us to also engage them as we spread the word of the book.
Yeah, like John said, I helped with the prenatal portions, really trying to figure out or like to verbalize a lot of the nuts and bolts of pregnancy care and kind of expectations from that point of view. I contributed to kind of the scope of options, including the termination part. And then I attempted editing, but I don't know if any of my edits made it, but I'm just kidding. um, and then I think, yeah, I think I was kind of the pregnancy girl mostly, but
But you also wrote one of the hardest parts, which, as Jen alluded to, was the option of pregnancy termination. And so that to me, that was one of the toughest sections to write. And it was, I think, again, balanced.
thank you. I think, what part of the difficulty, I think, in writing that particular portion is obviously things are so different state to state. So it felt really difficult to be able to, I think the way that I practice medicine is I am like practical, like give me like these easy steps, how do I apply this in an easy way, right? And that's how I wanted to write my portion of these books. Like, what do I want you to walk away with if you hear one thing from me? Um, and it's so difficult, I think, when we're having that aspect of the conversation because I can't advise everybody the same way. What is true for women in Colorado is different for women in Texas, is different for women in New York City, and I found that part frustrating because I want to be able to give tangible action for people, if that's what they need. And that was just, so it was hard for me because I felt like it was just kind of a cursory here, but be supported, it was just kind of hard.
Kelly and I got
Oh, go ahead, Barb.
go back to the families on Kelly and I got to go back with families on the Facebook page and ask them questions so we could pull in the quotes and pictures for the book. And we were able to pull in we put the questions out there, asked the families to get the answers, and we were able to pick some of the quotes and make them fit within the book. We made pictures fit within the book too, but then as we started getting to the point of editing the book and putting it together, we realized that many of the pictures weren't going to be of the quality they needed to be. So then we had to get it thrown over to Kris to be able to master work on the pictures to get them in there correctly.
Yes, I feel like I was the lucky one who got to put the bow on top of the book by taking those pictures, converting them, making them the right size, dimension, all of the things required to make them look gorgeous when this was printed in color. Also had the privilege of taking those quotes and again, how do we apply those so that they bring that really personal side of this. And some of these quotes from these parents are honest and beautiful, and you can hear the ache in their words that these were decisions and choices that they had to make. They also, through the pictures, oh, what a joy it is to be the soft keeper of the pictures, because in every picture they say, right, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Let me say that again. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And that's what it feels like to me whenever I see a picture. In the old days, I opened up the envelope and a picture fell out. In today's world, I open an email or a form and a picture shows up on my screen. Um, and it just, to me, everything that I want to know about this family is written in this child, in this picture. And sometimes, if it's a brand new baby or it's a baby that is stillborn, and the parents are embracing this child with love, and you can just feel these pictures tell you how they feel and what they had wanted or want for their child and for their future and their family, with or without the child in their arms. So I had the privilege of taking all of these beautiful people's words, the text, and then getting it ready to send to Nick, to the formatter, who then got it ready. But the pictures and the quotes were the bow on top. I feel like adds the human side of all of the medical jargon, all the medical information that they need. But the human side of this, where these families express their experiences, is the touch that gave. I think, in all honesty, it's a soft touch. It's a side of this that we all feel like is a soft heart.
One logistic aspect of our final step of the process, which I think was, Nick, even frustrating for you as you're waiting for us to go to press, and Kris, was that I did ask that we send it out to numerous medical and health professionals. We already had many parents look at it, so we did. I did have a palliative care doctor, a palliative care nurse, a neonatologist, 2 genetic counselors, Stephanie Meredith, who I'll mention again, who definitely had a number of comments that all helped with readability and with final touches.
Yeah, I was excited to get the typesetting going, and then John pulls the rug from underneath. But the benefit is the feedback they gave, reassured us, and also gave there was some good feedback that we were able to tweak. I mean, so
I think John is right about that, Nick. I think what John is saying, and what I think we all appreciated, is that there was more than just our eyes, the 8 eyes here, or the 10 eyes that helped write the book or contribute to the book. There were many more professionals and parents who read it, looked at it, and had their opinions also stated on it. So you felt like it had a chance to be seen, read, heard, felt, and we came back. And so that final product was one that a lot of people had a chance to put their input in and make it well rounded.
You have various members of the scientific and medical board, Dr. Showwater, Dr. Braddock, both, had a chance to read the book and give its input. So
I think that's something important to put out there, in that, this is not a book. There's time and place for individual stories and to tell your story and to write your books. But this particular book was written by a collection of professionals that we have here, and then peer reviewed and edited and so on. So what a wonderful book that could do that. Let's turn our attention a little bit to what families will find inside the book. We've talked about the birth plan. We've talked about a glossary. We've talked about describing multiple options. Let's talk birth plan at first. Barb, Kelly, those that contributed to it. What are you most proud of when it comes to the birth plan? And what can families take from it? This is a working book, is how I know we've tried to create it. Should we have perforated edges so they could tear out pages and take them to their doctor? Well, this 6x9 book is a book pamphlet, journal almost. What are you guys most proud about the birth plan? tell me some things that stand out, and what should families expect when they're looking at this book? Like how should they expect to use it?
So we tried really hard to meet families with whatever decisions they were making along their journey. If they wanted, were pursuing comfort care or full interventions, or if they had a child who was going to be stillborn, we wanted to make sure that we included um, every family where they were at, and that we listed things that they maybe didn't think of that they would want to talk about, would want to consider for their own birth or desire for labor.
Kelly or Barb, you want to add to the part of the birth
I think
plan
people
or
were looking
thoughts?
for a place to go to I think people were looking for the birth plan on the website, and it was hard to find, and we cleared it up and made it a little more able to be read and everything there, and made sure everything was there. And then we decided, okay, now it's ready to go in the book. Now you know somewhere to go to. We can redirect them to the book and say, here's the book. This is what you need to look at. And then you make your choices on how to answer those questions in there. And nobody sees them except the doctor and you and the team that's working together.
Now,
Yeah,
Jacqueline,
things that I
yeah, go ahead, Kris.
Go ahead.
Yeah, add, Kris, go ahead.
Talking about the website, I think is the biggest thing is that we wanted this information available to families in whatever format they wanted. So it's free from the internet at trisomy.org, where they can download it and print it, but they can also purchase it through Amazon if they wanted that as well. So the biggest thing is it wasn't going to be our money-making way to support SOFT. We wanted this to be the most accessible to families wherever, however they could get their hands on it, read it, refer to it. So I think it's important to remember that it is available at the website for free.
Absolutely.
I was going to just say one of the things that I really appreciated about the birth plan being in the book and just being so central was it really is such a living document, and I think being able to start to kind of process those decisions early is so helpful for families because it may change, it may not, but to have kind of that anchor in the plan itself is so helpful. It's grounding for patients, and then it's something tangible that they can hand. And I think, again, kind of going back to the practicality of obstetrics, more and more. We have different call groups. You have hospitalists that are there. So your doctor that you may have seen in the clinic for your whole pregnancy may not be there for your birth. It might be me, and you're meeting me for the very first time. Um, so to have something where we as your team can support you more thoroughly and like holistically how you want. You're not having to have that conversation when you're 8 centimeters. You've already thought about it. It's already written down. I don't even have to ask you questions. I just say, hey, is this accurate? Are we good? Okay, get your epidural. Let's have a baby. You know what I mean? So I think I just really loved how the birth plan came to be in the book and how central it is because it's so helpful, not only as a parent, which again, like I joked before having to write my own birth plan, like, I wrote like a satire one about, wearing solar eclipse glasses and not letting my my partner at the time like looked on there, and now I'm like, oh wait, I am making life or death decisions. So it was just such a jarring experience for me. And I think it took me by surprise as an obstetrician how it felt as a mother. And being able to have that kind of resource early and really sit with it and think about it is just I just think that's so great for families.
The other thing I appreciated was when they did the birth plan and we worked on it, we made sure it was purposeful and there were things were very segmented in kind of proper places and proper order. So it wasn't this birth plan that was 20 pages long that your obstetrician is like weeding through to try to find what you want. It was kind of all in a order that made sense and had things that you may not have necessarily thought of as a parent. on there that, the parents could make the decision as to where it was. So I really appreciated how thoughtful it was in its organization, and then how concise it was as well. So it's not this overwhelming document that you're handing over to this obstetrician might be the first time that you're meeting.
Jen has a really good point as she talks about this document. I think we've talked about it as if this is a 600-page book and that it's just massive. I think the really most important thing is that it's only 40 pages long, and yet it's packed full of everything: medical information, the birth plan, a glossary, tells you about doctors. And yet the book itself, what did you say, Nick? 6 by 9, about 40 pages long, glossy color pictures with amazing things in it. So it is from start to finish jam packed with amazing things, but it is actually a very small book. And so it's manageable, it's not overwhelming. And there it is. And I think
You're a very
it's
good
not as
Vanna, John.
intimidating. It doesn't look intimidating to hand that to someone. And they can read a little bit and put it away, or they can read it all the way through and put it away. It's a very accessible and lightweight book that I think is going to be really, it has been shown to be an advantage for families and for medical professionals.
Yeah, what we've tried to do for each of them, color coded a little bit. So I'm hopeful, but before too long, we're up to 3 volumes here in a moment, with Spanish version for trisomy 18, Spanish version for trisomy 13. And then when trisomy 9 and trisomy 9 Spanish come out, we'll have this collection of kind of a rainbow on your bookshelf. But, what we really just hope is that for families that receive this diagnosis, it's something that can easily be handed, can be easily stored, and go with them. So what is the impact of this book? What is the evolution of trisomy 18 and 13 across the just medical side?
Well, I think the book's appearance not long before the American Academy of Pediatrics report, which really kind of showed how we evolved and that had an approach to care that was much different than was conventional and traditional, was excellent. That is the timing. These books came out, first 18, then 13, and then the AAP report came out. And I think they have a different philosophy of balance, a philosophy of both of them being balanced in what was presented compared to the sort of single view of it's best not to intervene, or we usually don't intervene, or it's best to let things happen as they would. That kind of view of several decades. Our book hit at the same time that it was starting to change. The narrative was changing, and then the A report showed that the narrative is changing.
I think the ACMG also did that a little bit. You guys were at the ACMG in California in March, and there was a steady line to the soft booth to be able to get the free copy of the 2 books. Plus,
Right.
we were hit afterwards by genetic counselors and doctors still wanting the book. So I think that it proved to be something that was needed, something that was wanted in the medical community as well, which was great to see in March.
And Barbara, you're talking about the 2 books. I don't, not to make it seem like the trisomy 13 book was less important, but we now had the blueprint for what we wanted to have happen for the trisomy 13 book. But we knew the medical information had to be unique to that chromosomal disorder. It needed to be specially looked at, which again, Dr. Carey, being the orchestrator of that, made sure that the trisomy 13 information was personalized. We then again looked at pictures and quotes and did the same thing. So having the blueprint already in place for the 18 book, then the trisomy 13 book just fell beautifully into place. And so those 2 were actually printed quite close together because one was much easier to make because the first one was just meticulously looked at and taken care of. So with those, and Nick, maybe we can also say besides the trisomy 18 book, the trisomy 13 book, which we call sister books, we also have those both in Spanish. Those have been translated both professionally into Spanish.
Has anyone received feedback from families yet about the book?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of feedback on social media about the books, just especially after our expectant parent meetings. We hear a lot of families just praising the book and saying how helpful it is and how nice it is to have a resource that they can go to their doctors with to help advocate for their families, or just to give them peace of mind when they're going in to have those conversations, that they feel more prepared to have those conversations with the medical professionals. Having something in hand, it gives their point of view, they feel like, some more legitimacy.
Anyone else?
I can just speak to a couple of the physicians locally that I have talked with, are excited that there is a resource available that they can share with families that are newly diagnosed, and that it's something that is written so that they can make their decisions and be educated on every potential option, and so that they feel like they're doing the best thing for their family.
I was just going to say, I've heard the same as Terra from other physicians, that they're happy there's a resource that families can go to, and that it's a resource that all the information is presented in one nice, concise area. They don't have to send their patients to multiple different websites or multiple different groups to get that information, to help make decisions.
Nice, because it's easy to link to when we see people on social media, whether it be in our group or another group. I just linked to our expectant parent page on the website, which gives the book and everything. And I link that in there, and then they come over and they grab the book, and it's perfect for them, a perfect way to let them know what's going on.
We also never know when we're going to need it. By chance, I happened to be at a basketball game, sat next to an older woman, and we were sharing stories, and she told me that her dear friend's granddaughter was just prenatally diagnosed with trisomy 18, and her pregnancy was going well, but they had that news. So I was able to run home, grab about 3 copies, and give them back to this woman at the next basketball game. And she shared them with her dear friend's granddaughter's family. I saw her a few weeks later. I asked her, how did that go? And she said the family was just so grateful to have something in hand. So grandma kept one, gave one to her daughter, and one to her granddaughter. So where they went from there, I'm not sure, but you never know when these are going to come in handy at a basketball game or at the grocery store.
What I would like to kind of allow everyone to have a chance to talk about is maybe some advice that they would give to a family. Many of you on this call have been the mother that received this diagnosis. John, you've been involved with many other consultations. I'd love to, just from the perspective of advice, and that's what this book is for. What kind of advice can we provide, and would you like to share? Either how to use this book or just in general. I'd love to everybody have a chance real quick to kind of give their 2 cents to the important opportunity to support another parent.
Yeah, I think one, advice, I guess, I'll use that as a springboard. I might choose a different word, but what it is, guidance, maybe coaching, but what is just the idea that there are choices, and that there are choices at different points in pregnancy. The one that we focus most of our content on would be a time in prenatal diagnosis, whatever the method to learn the diagnosis of trisomy 18. And then if whatever happens at that point, at the time of birth, we again have choices, like going down the track of pure comfort care, compassionate care. By now, we fortunately have fantastic pediatric palliative care teams, and at least in most children's hospitals, not at every rural hospital, sadly. Maybe eventually, but we have virtual meetings that can occur, or the choice of varying degrees of intervention, from intensive care to commonly the option of cardiac surgery. So to me, Jacqueline brought up the theme of autonomy, and I think, it leads to the same notion, if you will, that you have the autonomy to actually make these choices at the various decision points. 10 weeks of pregnancy, at 15 to 20 weeks of pregnancy, in the fetal care center at 25 to 30 weeks, and then at the time of birth. So that would be under the umbrella of advice. I guess I would say my guidance or coaching would be to underscore that theme of people have choices. They need the information to make the best choice that fits their family at each of those touch points.
If I can piggyback off of that, not only I think you're 100% right, John, because unless there is a miscarriage or a stillbirth or something like that, you will make choices throughout this. And I think that your choices can change and they evolve as the pregnancy continues and as your child grows, and just speaking from my own personal experience, I was so heavily against a trach for 3 years, and then we made the decision, and it turns out to be one of the best decisions we've ever made for Noah and his care. But it didn't start out that way. I didn't even start out full intervention. I, was going to be comfort care for the longest time. So it's just, I think, to wrap up my rambling, allow yourself the grace to consider and let yourself evolve, and also trust yourself, and that you are going to make the right decision for you and your family because you love this kid. And that can look like lots of different things for lots of different people. But I have not met a family yet who is making their decisions with anything other than love for their family and for their children. So you can rest in your choice and in your decision because that's where you're starting from. And, I think we as the medical community need to do a better job supporting you, however that goes. But that you can rest in that's your starting point.
Another important point is that although everybody is talking about trisomy 18 and their child with trisomy 18, there's so many variations of what it can look like in each child, what the heart condition is, what the feeding conditions are, what the respiratory airway support needs to be. Realize that every kid is not the same with trisomy 18. All the things that are in the book that are things that trisomy 18 children can have doesn't mean they're going to have every one of those lists. They may have 2 on that list. So give yourself some hope. Don't let them take your hope away because that's not fair. We all deserve to have hope. And realize that our kids are important, but they're also very different.
I like the idea to share with parents to trust yourself. I agree with what Jacqueline said completely. And I do love the idea that parents and a mom and a dad, whoever is making these choices, can give themselves that confidence that they need, that they're making the best decision at that moment with the information that they have, which is, like you said, based in love and concern for the child, and to find confidence in yourself and to trust yourself to make that decision.
And I'll just add to that trust that you will know what your child's needs are too. Even in utero, they have their personalities and they make themselves known, and you just have to trust that you're interpreting that correctly and that you are in love making the best decisions for them. And they're little tour guides. They take us on this journey that we never thought we were going to have to be, and it can be scary. But you will make the right decision for them.
I agree with that. I think you need to meet yourself where you're at and meet yourself where your child is at, and that knowing that you will make the right decision at that time for your child. And it's also okay if you change your mind about where you're at with your child. It's okay if, like Jacqueline said, you start off as comfort care and then change to full intervention, or you go vice versa and you're full intervention, gung-ho at the start, and then yourself or your child, his heart tells you, you know what, Mom, I think it's okay. And I think it's, this is not the right path for me at this moment in time. And it's okay to make those changes in your decisions as well, whether it's going forward or backtracking.
Yeah, I think I would agree with what everybody is pretty much saying, to trust yourself. Over 23 years, I've changed my mind so many times of which path that we were taking with Akaya. And, she's an old lady now. She's the same age I was when I found out I was pregnant with her. So it's kind of wild to be at that point. But yeah, we've started out with comfort care, and then she said, I've got this. And, we went full speed ahead. And, as she's getting older, we've had to change our minds again. So it's, you kind of come around full circle, but we just always have to rely on the fact that we're making our decisions because we know we love her, and, we know her best, and we know you're going to know your child best. You're going to be the one who is going to be making those great big decisions that are really scary. But like Jacqueline and everybody else has said, you're doing it because you love them and you know what's best for them.
What wonderful advice that you all have given. What wonderful mothers, and from one mom to the next. Hopefully, if any new parent is listening, any new mom, either on the expectant side or just recently gave birth, what wonderful advice you all gave. You've all walked that path.
Nick, can I
And
say one more piece? Because,
by all means,
I
yes.
just keep going. Okay. You must have a tribe. This is not an isolationist sport. This is not a solo sport. So you need your people. And then when you get your people, you cling to them. And that can look like a mom. That can look like, we have been so fortunate to have a couple of physicians who really, like, early on helped us with Noah's care. But you keep those people in your circle, and you allow yourself, which is really hard when you're a type A person like me, to let them help you, because you cannot do this by yourself. It's just impossible. But you can do it with people. Okay, now I'm done.
I love that idea that you surround yourself with people you trust and care about you in whatever part of this journey you're on, whether your child is living or your child has died and you're learning to walk through this journey in grief. Either way, you want to be surrounded by those that can support you, lift you up, and help you become still the very best version of yourself that you can be, whether you carry your child in your arms or in your heart. I love the idea that you're surrounded by people who care and know who you are, just as we're trying to surround ourselves around our child and making the right decisions. I do like that idea. We're all interconnected in some way, and somehow this journey is made more gentle, more kind if we're surrounded by those that we know have our best interest in mind as well.
This has been awesome. We have a couple of items that we have to share. One, we want to make sure that anyone that receives a diagnosis of trisomy 18 or 13 in English, and this family speaks English or Spanish, and soon trisomy 9, but we want to make sure that we can get these books in the hands of those families. We've already talked and shared. You can go to trisomy.org, go to our new expectant parent thread page and request the book. You can get it free. We just ask how you heard about us, just so we can get better at sharing it. And you can receive a digital copy. You'll buy our books through Amazon because it's easy for most people in this country and even the world. So Amazon.com, we have links from our website to go buy them if you want a physical copy. Now here, listeners, whoever's listening, we want to, and we've been mailing these books to different facilities. Barb on here, she's got a stack of them. She's got hundreds of them at the moment that we were able to fundraise for, and we want to mail them to more different hospitals, different neonatal centers, the gamut. Anyone that could use this from a medical standpoint, so they could share them, they can read them, they can provide the information. So if you're listening, please go to trisomy.org and go to our contact us and send us addresses of locations we should be mailing these books to. We have other programs in place that I'm working together with a couple of wonderful people to create care packages. And so hopefully as we raise more funds and have opportunities, we're going to create care packages that we can send to families. And it would include these books, and our wish list is rather large of what we would send in a care package, but these books would be right at the top of the list with some other goodies. So Raylene Banks and I have got some big plans for that audience. So we've got a lot of ways that we want to at Soft get these books out there, but we can definitely use the help of people in your local communities. We know in rural communities, it might be a little harder for us to find you, or the clinics or the hospitals. We would still love to send you copies. So again, go to trisomy.org, go to the contact us, and tell us where to send them to, and we'll send them there. These books, again, achieve a huge part of our mission, which is to support families. And the second part of our mission at Soft is to change the narrative. And that narrative is changing as we speak. There's been great medical reports that have come out. We are grateful for the American Academy of Pediatrics for that report. We're grateful for all the many doctors that have chosen to pursue creative and new technologies and new surgeries and new activities. And so the narrative is constantly changing, but it will change much faster if we can get more people aware of these conditions, more people aware of what options families and parents have. And so please help us spread the news by telling us where we could send these books. If you are a new and expectant parent, please reach out to us, receive this book for free on our website. And here's the other option. We have families and we have volunteers that love to talk to you. Many of the people on here have spent time at different points of their life being able to jump on a phone call, jump on a Zoom call and talk to you. So if you need, as Jacqueline said, a tribe, if you need to hear from someone that has walked this path, please come to our website, request a consultation from one of our volunteers. They're just parents like you, and they'd be happy to chat with you, give you a digital hug, move you in the right direction, answer your questions as best they can. And then we just want to be here for support. So here at Soft, we do that. The last one, which is fun, I've met everybody. Jacqueline, I haven't met you yet in person, but everyone else I've met in person, because for this coming July 2026, and so if you're listening to this in the future, this is past, but is our 40th conference. I can't use the word anniversary, but this is our 40th conference. And so every summer, typically in July, we get together for like a big Soft reunion. And so I've been to many of them. Some of you have been to a lot more on this panel, but Soft Conference is a wonderful place to come. We have families that have children that are living, in their wheelchairs, and they got all their siblings like I was running up and down the halls and taking over this hotel. We have clinics, we have picnics, we have remembrance outings. So there are a number of families that come that their child has passed, and it's a great time to just rub shoulders with this tribe. So again, if you're listening, that's another great event to maybe mark your calendars, go to our website. You can get all the information. We're going to Colorado in 2026. So I'm excited because I'm a West Coast person. But overall, we just want to support families. We want to help change the narrative, and that's what we're doing at Soft. And so thank you, everybody, all of you that supported creating this book. Thank you for taking time to now talk about it. I've learned some insights. It's just a wonderful experience to be able to be part of the cutting edge of just helping the next parent, the next mom, the next dad make decisions that are right for them. So thank you, everybody. Again, this is presented by Soft. We've just been talking all things trisomy. We love each of you that are listening. Please like, comment, or share. And till next time.